Okay, so learning Blender part 2. In this one, we're going to be looking at how you do basic texturing. It's not going to be anything crazy at the beginning of this part. We're just going to be doing solid colors, but I am actually going to show you still in this video how to bring image textures in. And we're going to use some of the iMesh materials, which is a really, really high quality Blender asset site, which has allowed me to use some of the assets. We're going to use a wood texture, really make our barrel look good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the barrel. I'm going to hold Z, material preview mode. Now, once you click on the barrel, you should see this option down here, material properties. Let's click on it. We're going to hit new. And then we are going to double tap and rename this barrel wood. Hit enter. Once this texture's in, we can just take the base color, drag it down here to red, and then just drag this slider down to get a bit of a brown look. Again, this part, it really doesn't matter. We're going to be changing this. This is just for us to kind of get an idea of what we're doing. We can also left click the rings here, new, barrel, rings. The materials can be a little bit weird as well when you start using Blender. I'm going to try and just get you comfortable using it, but for now, all you really have to do is just create these basic materials. And you'll actually notice that when I click on the barrel, it says barrel wood, but when I click on the rings, that shows up. That's because while both of these materials are in our Blender scene, they are not on the individual objects. So you could actually bring the wood onto this one, which I'm going to show you in a bit, but don't worry about that. We're just going to make it metallic for now. And if you have a white color and you make it metallic, it gets a bit of a gray look to it. And if we then just drag down the roughness to about 0.2, now we have a metal looking ring. But the ring is pretty blocky and that's really not a look that we want. So let's right click it and go into shade smooth. Once we do that though, you know, now it's not so blocky, but we're not really getting the look that we want. So we're going to do a little bit of editing just to get the texture looking right. So let's hit tab to go into edit mode, hit Control R to make a loop cut, click it, and then just drag it up. And you can kind of see how that reflection's changing when you do that. So I still want it to be rounded, but I want the edges to be hard. So I'm moving another edge up to it. Again, it's a little bit strange, but it'll make more sense once you kind of practice it. So let's make another one. This time we're going to drag it down. And just by doing that, you can see how the whole reflection is a lot smoother now. It's much more pleasing to look at. Let's also go down here, Control R to loop cut, go up, Control R to loop cut, and you can just drag it right down. It can't go past that edge, the edge of this face here. So you can just drag it down. Let's hit tab. Now those rings are looking a lot better. What can we do now to make this look even better? We can now start to bring in those textures that I was talking about. So there will be a link below. The only thing that you really need is the wood 75 texture. What we can do to bring our barrel's wood up to the next level now is we can actually grab those textures that I was talking about from iMesh, and we are going to bring these into our scene. But what I'm going to do to really get more control over what we're doing is I'm going to go into shading. Now, shading allows us to have this node editor, and you can just come down here, scroll in and out. But since we've already created this texture, this is automatically added. And right now, I'm looking at this barrel rings. That's not what we want. We want barrel wood. So let's click back on the barrel. There we go. And once you have this folder, as I said, the download link is below. We're going to go to 4K. Let's drag in the base color. Let's drag in the normal map. And let's drag in the roughness. So we can close that now. Everything is in our scene, no problem. Let's plug in the color map. Let's plug in the roughness. And then let's also plug in the normal. So once we do that, things aren't quite looking right with the barrel. It's a little bit off and it's kind of got these weird reflections all over it. The reason why that is, well, I guess there's two reasons. One, roughness you want to set everything that isn't the color map to non-color data. And that kind of helps, but it's not really fixing the problem. And the big problem we are having is because this texture here cannot be plugged directly into the normal. And a good way of typically telling that inside of Blender is that if you have a yellow node here, typically it's not going to be able to plug into the purple one. It's not an absolute system. There are some times where you're going to have different colors plugging into other colors, but for the most part, they are going to be color coordinated. So what we're going to do is we're going to click in the grid, Shift A, search, normal, map, not the normal. The normal and the normal map are two completely different nodes. So let's drop it here. And when you actually hover over that line with the node, you can just click it and it'll automatically link it up. So now the barrel is looking a lot better. And, you know, I'm liking how it looks. So I'm happy with that. We can also just change the color of the floor to something that's maybe a little gray. I don't know, something. We'll change this later, but we'll give it almost like a concrete look. Good enough. But if we click back on the barrel, the reason why I wanted you to add Node Wrangler in the very first part is I want you to click on this base color and then hit Control and T. And when you have Node Wrangler set up, it automatically makes these mapping nodes. So it takes the texture coordinate in the mapping. Don't worry too much about that for now, but what you can do with these is actually plug this into all of them. And then what I like to do is hit Shift A, search value. And this is one of those examples I was talking about where this gray value can plug into this purple one. The purple one is a vector. That's why there's an X, Y, and Z, but we're basically just telling it to have all values at 0.5. And let's watch what happens when I actually increase this now. So we've made it so that we can control this texture size through this node here. Let's make this 0.2, and then I think that we should be ready to get onto the next part of our texturing video where we are going to just UV unwrap this. So we're going to make this barrel look a little bit more realistic, give it some randomness. And for this, we can actually go to the UV editing tab. Now, this is how it is right now. This isn't too bad. This actually will work, you know, fairly well, but click over in this viewport and let's go into material preview. I always found it weird that that's in solid mode because it just doesn't work very well for this part. And you can actually see that if we zoom in right up on the barrels, you have all these stretched textures. So this is going to fix that problem. We should only be able to select the barrel in the edit mode for it. So you can see that it's edit mode up here. Let's hit A, and this will select everything. So this is how it currently looks. Let's hit U to unwrap though, Smart UV project, and then just hit OK. So we can see how everything changes over here. We still have the circles. So those are the top and bottoms, but now if we zoom in and we look right here, these textures are not going all over the place. And it gives us a little more randomness. So I think that that's pretty much good to go. I'm happy with where the barrel is at. The other little bonus that you can do if the barrel is not quite how you want it to look is come up here, type Shift A, type in hue, and then saturation should just pop up. Drop this here. And then from here, you can play around with the color of the barrel. You can change the saturation of the barrel or the value. So I'm going to make mine maybe a little bit darker. And it's all nodes, so if it's non-destructive, you can just go color, plug that back in here. Now it's the original, or you can take this and plug it in, and now it's going through the node again. So I'm happy where this is at. The last texture that I want to add in is we are going to go to polygon. And I'm going to type in concrete. You can use whatever you want. You can use a hardwood floor. You can use a concrete. I'm personally going to use a concrete just because they came up with some really nice textures. So I'm going to see if there's any free ones. Let me just filter on that. My assets. Free. Okay. So let's take this one because as I said, I really like it. Now, resolution, let's do 4K. That part doesn't really matter. Free download. Right, now that that's downloaded, let's open it up. And, you know, you can just extract it any way that you want. It's no big deal. I'll just hit extract. I'll put it in my downloads. Okay. And you can put all of these into a folder just for what I'm showing you. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I would just kind of keep track of where they are in case you don't want to break the links to these textures. So if you do put them all in a folder, that's even better, but it's not that big of a deal because I'll show you how to fix that anyways. So let's pop in here. Let's open up our File Explorer, Downloads, find the concrete panels, vertical large, 4K, and let's choose variation 2, gloss, and normal. That should be fine for now. Let's plug this in here. Now, the gloss map can plug into the roughness map, but we do need to make this non-color. We also need to Shift A, search invert, drop that in. Now it is a roughness map. That's literally all a gloss map is. It's an inverted roughness map, so they're interchangeable. Let's add in our normal map. Normal. Change this to non-color. And Shift T. Plug in the UV vectors here. Let's give it another value here. And let's just set this to 1 for now. Actually, let's make this 2. Okay. Maybe I'll also increase the strength of the normal just to give it a little more bump. You can see that as I increase that, you get more of a gritty look. And you know what? Actually, maybe I will just keep that around 2. Okay. Let's save it. I probably should have saved it before now, but I'll just call this barrel. Save Blender file. Okay, but we are ready now for part 3. And this part is the fun part where we're actually going to do some rendering. So I hope to see you all over there.